Damn it, if we go at this pace, all of us will die. Or that can't be. If we complete the tutorial, do you think we can leave this place? As expected, the situation was a mess. It was as if they didn't realize that their loud shouting and yelling were ringing throughout the cave. That probably is so. The situation isn't as bad as it looks. Did everyone hear what the voice mentioned about the quest, that is? Though I only heard of it. It said to kill those monsters that were called goblins that had attacked us earlier. That's impossible. We're all going to die. No. If we all combine our strength, I'm sure it's possible. I think there was a similar conversation in the past. Clearly, that Lee St. John guy had grouped up with the rest. In the end, he sacrificed many comrades into the jaws of death as he survived alone, if I remember. Though he had somehow survived to enter the continent. Afterwards, I could hear no news of him. Probably, the chances of him dying while attempting to do a similar tactic was high, though this doesn't really concern me. I could immediately enter and attack, but why is there a need to spill blood if you can avoid it? I wasn't sure what they were talking about now, for their voices had quieted down. Since they had experienced a difficult day, they're probably drunk with sleepiness. Captain. When do we go in? Duke. We wait a bit longer. Duke. Understood. As if the goblins weren't as foolish as they looked, they weren't making any noises as the time when we first departed. We withdrew back deeper into the forest and started to wait. After some time, the cave began to become completely silent, as the rustling sound accompanied by swords and shields of 4 adult men slowly walked out. Night watch? TCH. I had hoped that they would all sleep without night watch, but it seems they weren't so foolish to do so. But, about this much was also sufficient. I slowly raised my hand towards the goblins and extended it out. Immediately, the goblins handed over a dagger. Thanks to the evolution as a goblin warrior, I was able to grip it tighter than before. Hi, I'm going to settle my thing and come back. Just in case, let's go together. It's much safer with 2 than 1. Luckily, 2 people began to walk away from the cave. I pointed a direction at the 5 goblins that were staring intently at me. These 5 were the most loyal. Making a shush expression with my finger on my mouth, they nodded their heads in comprehension. When the 5 goblins were busy concealing their tracks, I poured strength onto my arm and threw a dagger powerfully towards one of the 2 men, instantly causing the guy to fall back. The other one, seeing his comrade killed in front of him, let out a shrilling cry. Ah! It's an ambush. The monsters. Gayuk. Before finishing what he had to say, a dagger pierced the poor guy's neck. It's finished. It was an opportune timing for a compliment. However, we didn't have such time for that. I quickly called over the rest of the clan members and headed towards the cave. We're invading into the cave. Duke. 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 What? What's wrong? From the dusky, dark cave, panicking screams began to surge out. I could even see some escaping out of the cave in urgent shock. Hey, you, and you, go take care of those guys that are fleeing. Understood, Captain. Duke. Leave it to me. Duke. Hurriedly invading into the cave, I could see the goblins pushing each other as they tried to enter deeper into the cave. Hi. Someone save me. Save me, oh Lord. Please save me. Everyone, we must fight together. We have to fight together. The face that wasn't at the very front, but halfway in the center yelling was definitely Lee St. John, who I had seen before. Seeing him, you don't know just how much I wanted to thrust a sword into the guy's face. Despite time PA.S.sing by, not much has changed. I saw how he was continuing to push the rest of his comrades forward, not shutting up. Foolish custards. The skill to stir up talk wasn't bad, but in this extreme harsh situation, to think that such methods would work was itself a mistake. It would rather be more effective to stand up front and hold a shield. However, those guys that had full of fear wouldn't be able to do such a thing. If we stick together, we can win. Those with swords and shields, advance to the front line. As for the rest, they were constantly screaming, but for those humans filled with fear, to say such things were naturally deaf to their ears in such cases. Especially, to those absconders, this method was much more thrown aside. That dark cave, those screaming humans, and the laughing voices of the monsters. It was as if one could write a horror movie scene. Fighting in the front and helping his comrades would be more helpful, but the number of people that were willing to hold a sword was a minority. Lee St. John screaming in the back hoarsely had no thoughts of receiving a blow for another as expected. If we gather. Cuck. Annoyed with him constantly screaming, I grabbed a dagger and flung it, causing the mouth to be filled with blood. Kyarake. Every time we took a step forward, they squirmed trying to take a step back. In this situation, there was definitely a means of escape. Those with shields could push forward and block while allowing the rest of the people to fend off against us with their swords. Though they can't win this battle, they can indeed open a path. Of course, a few will definitely die. I couldn't confirm for sure whether we will have no casualties, it seems. The problem was, who's the sacrificial lamb? Even if you were to have a shield, if you were to jump up first, the fact that you would be the primary target was common sense. If you had the courage to win over your own fear, then you wouldn't have fled the first battle. As if my estimation was correct, those who were holding on to swords and shields were scrambling to retreat into the group. Like those people that were trying to squirm their ways into a full subway train. Get out. Get out. Duck. Please. You have a shield. You're a man. What was worse was that I could hear yelling from the group as if they were fighting. It seems that they don't know that they will all die one way or the other. Duke. 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 The goblins continued to pressure the humans towards the back walls of the cave. The laughter of the goblins resounded throughout the cave, as I could feel that those echoes won't stop for some time. Ultimately, the goblins launched their bodies towards the humans. If you exclude the one goblin that had died from a blind sword, then there were no casualties. Other than the one human that I wanted to experiment on, we had killed as many as 38 people. It was a complete victory. We are the Bloodbagger clan. Cuke. If we just listened to our captain's words, we'd get food during our sleep. Cuke. Thanks to me, as the herd were returning back, the goblins were screaming and singing in praise of me. And after the second battle, there were 2 more goblins that had evolved in the clan. One had evolved into a goblin archer, while the other had chosen the goblin warrior. The goblin archer that had evolved was the female goblin who possessed deep affection for me. Watching me throwing daggers from a safe range, as if she had discovered a delicious fruit, she was extremely excited holding the very coarse bow. The other goblin that wanted to learn how to be despicable showed quite valor contrary to his intended purpose. It seemed that there would be no problem utilizing the 2 as our clan's vanguard for the other goblins. Thankfully, as if the pride of the clan was already embedded in them, they had no thoughts of leaving. Rather, they were staring at me with admirable eyes. Especially, the female goblin's look made me very flustered. But, Captain. Cuke. Why are we bringing the human? Cuke. I thought we were bringing it alive to eat. Duke. I heard that some goblins like that. Captain doesn't eat humans. I heard that he only ate the dead goblins from battle. It said that it's a sign of comfort for the dead goblins. Hearing the goblins' conversation, I couldn't help but let out a chuckle. I wonder where in the world did they hear such nonsensical rumors about comforting the dead goblins. Laughing, I continued to gradually move my feet. Beside me was a woman, tied up, staring at me intently. Using a vine from the forest, I had tied her up and placed a gag in her mouth, but tears continued to trickle down her face. After finishing dinner, I brought the rest of my clan back towards our camp. Let's walk a bit more. Feeling our presences, the many goblins started to chat excitedly amongst one another. Earlier. It's those goblins that left outside. Duke. They brought back food. They're carrying humans. So many. Duke. They all stared at us dumbstruck as if they were all staring at a hero. Not expecting to receive such a reception, smiles materialized across the subordinates' faces. We are the Bloodbagger clan. Duke. It's the Bloodbagger clan. The Bloodbagger clan has returned from its human hunt. Our captain is amazing. As if they were extremely fond of the Bloodbagger clan's title, the 5 goblins from earlier continued to yell and rejoice. Among those was the goblin warrior that had evolved. As my members continued to scream, the goblins trailing behind started to speak useless words trying to induce sympathy. Meave, you're quite beautiful. I'm so envious of the Bloodbagger clan's captain. Among the green skins, I think you're the most beautiful. So envious. Cuke. Realizing, it seems that in the goblin world, she was deemed as quite a beauty. Especially, after she had evolved into a goblin archer, her beauty had taken a notch up. Although it didn't really concern me at the moment, just in case I could see a good result as she continues to evolve, I decided to keep an eye on this Meave goblin. Just like that, the 30 or so goblins took the corpses of humans on their shoulders as they entered the campground. For now, I was holding on to the captive woman. Whether she was afraid of the goblins' jubilation or just angry, she continued to squirm her body. It was nothing but a battle, but the goblins appeared to have the form of a general as they entered the campgrounds. From those silly poses, I laughed. Anyways, though the other goblins were continually staring at our side in curiosity, they didn't touch our possessions at all. If they were hungry, then it might have been a different case, but it was as if they were displaying a sign of recognition to us as if they were already full. Of course, the rising power and strength of our Bloodbagger clan can also be a reason. While the goblins were celebrating their safe return for some time, I could see a large goblin walking towards me. Against Captain Despicable. It was already a lost cause. Goodbye Lee Sunjin. The goblin that charged in first and displayed quite an impressive performance from the first battle, the one that evolved first alongside me, it was Warrior Gorf. Gorf was slowly approaching me as the goblins were trailing behind. Before long, Grot arrived in front of me and opened his mouth. You did pretty well. Despite choosing the same warrior as me, not sure how but his size was much greater than me. As much as the size of a human. Even if you were to choose the same warrior path, depending on your behavioral patterns, the direction at which you evolve changes. Though this guy was always a bit bigger than me, the way he fought in the front line probably influenced his evolution, as it seems that he had some growth compensation towards his strength. Duke. 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 Both leading these masses, the 2 chiefs facing each other was an awesome sight to see as goblins here and there started to jump in commotion. There was even a goblin that started to sing. I remembered that Gorf definitely disliked me, but seeing this achievement, it seems that he has altered his perspective of me once more. Opportunistic and a somewhat despicable, decent warrior was the probable internal assessment he had of me. Let's work well going forth. Soon afterwards, he started to pound his chest. No matter how you see it, it seems that the goblins salute one another by pounding their chests, so I replied likewise. Duke. Duke. In the vicinity, the other goblins had one fist pounding their chests staring at us. And as such, Gorf simply turned back. I was living a normal group life among the low population of goblins. Excluding a few goblins, although we were summoned in different locations, we had naturally conglomerated, certainly different from the humans. To say the least, what is in this location is a tribal alliance, otherwise known as a clan alliance. Not interfering with one another, each tribe acknowledges and helps each other survive. Compared to the past when the humans had fought and separated after progressing through the tutorial a bit due to their own vested interests. Grape was normal, and even many were killed for food if I recall. Although it might be ridiculous to hear this seeing these goblins, but they're rather more humane. Turning, I passed by the subordinates of Gorf. As if they had learnt it from our clan, the goblins started to chant strongly. We are Gorf clan. We are the brave Gorf clan. It was definitely more impactful hearing them say brave Gorf clan compared to the despicable Dagger clan. I roughly clanked at the goblins once more before walking away. Moving towards my camp, it was quite embarrassing to call it a camp to be honest. But, seeing that the tent barely assorted, it seems that the goblins too have a culture like those in the continent. It was a compatible version similar to the ones nomadic tribes used. Not only that, there were human skulls hanging on branches pointing to a clumsy flag embedded in the center. Quite creative. I'm not sure who, but there was a poorly made picture drawn. Around this time, these were the type of perfect goblin villages that you can see frequently in the continent. Let's drag the captured human inside. Suddenly, Meve stealthily walked with me towards the tent. Seeing that, I opened my mouth. What are you doing? Well, just in case you might be bored. Duke. What I remembered was the time Meve offered to mate with me before. Using her back heel, she started to draw a circle as if she was embarrassed. Though I want to tell her to screw off, since she was a goblin archer that recently evolved, I couldn't lose a useful power with such reckless words. Seeing how she had also aimed those daggers well at the same distance as me, she was someone with talent. She was actually better at throwing daggers than me who had polished this skill for a year. After searching my head, I quietly looked at Meve and opened my mouth. I have something to do so I can't. If there's something I can eat, order the guys to bring it to me. Ah, okay. From my words, she was noticeably pleased. As such, I brought the human woman tied up with a wooden vine inside. How cute. Those guys. Not sure when they made it, but in the middle was a constructed chair. I roughly sat down and took off the gag that the woman was biting. It seems she was still trembling as she glared at me. This was definitely not the case like in A Strange Man, where an orc kidnaps a princess knight to do lewd things. Instead, this was experimentation and confirmation. First, I needed to confirm if this woman can understand what I'm saying. Although I am currently communicating in the language goblins speak, I can clearly hear Korean in my ears. I'm not sure how they had translated it so, but if I was able to communicate with the humans, then this will be quite a useful tool to use. Hey! Opening my mouth, she stared at me with her eyes wide open. As expected, she doesn't understand. I felt like I was talking unconsciously to the goblins. I still remember Korean. Once more, I slowly stared at the woman and began to open my mouth. Can you understand me? H. How? Bingo. First assignment was cleared. It seems that I can speak to humans. The woman, although afraid, started to address me with her shaky voice. Where is this place? And who are you? Our language. How? Do you know? And where is this place exactly? Why? Why did you attack us? Chew. What's a tutorial? She began to ask incoherently about this and that. But there was no need to answer her. I'm the first and over there is the second. Quietly sitting down on my chair, the moment I opened my mouth, she immediately answered. Name. Younghyun. Age. 2. 28. Though the information wasn't useful, it was a procedure to check if she would reply well or not. Seeing how we were communicating, the first thing I asked were questions that would clear up whether I had really returned to the past. When were you summoned here? That was definitely when I was resting at night. I'm not asking about that. Precisely, what year, what month, what day did you come here is what I'm inferring to. July the 7th, 2016. That day was exactly the same as the day I had been summoned here. I was definitely summoned here at July the 7th, 2016. Where? Jeonju. President. Park. That's enough. It seems that this wasn't a parallel world like those in the manhwas. This was definitely the same person that lived in my time, in the same country. Although I had somewhat concluded this a while ago, I had confirmed that I had returned to the past in a monster's body. My head felt complicated. Well, if you were going to send me back anyways, it would have been better to send me back as a human, so it would be one step easier to meet Quasiology. Have you heard the stories of other people yet? Yes. Yes. Other people have apparently been summoned here at July the 7th, 2016 as well. But how do you? She stared at me as if she couldn't believe it. She stared at me, incredibly curious on how a monster-looking human was speaking in Korean that was asking stuff like what year and what day, and even asked about the president and city. There was probably one possible solution to that question. If you weren't a fool, you'll probably realize it as well. You were originally a human. Were the other monsters all humans as well? Do you know this place well? I didn't bother answering. She had probably made her conclusion. While a brief, awkward silence was approaching, Meave opened the door to the tent and walked towards the tent. She brought some edible food. Captain, you can come in. Meave. Okay. Soon afterwards, an energetic Meave entered. Glancing at the woman sitting down tied up, she again opened her mouth. So you do eat human? Duke. That's not the case. But to ask me to bring food. It seems you're really not going to eat it. I didn't answer Meave, but instead monitored the girl's reaction. As expected, it seems that she couldn't understand. Just from her expression, I could tell that she didn't. I was definitely using the same language I spoke to Meave to that Young-Hyun woman as well. Perhaps it is interpreted differently depending on the person. It seems that this is significantly useful. Noticing Meave standing absent-mindedly in my sight, I had opened my mouth to her once again. But something was seriously wrong with Maeve's look. As if she was looking at a cheating husband. You can leave it on the floor and go. Once I spoke, Meave was greatly hesitant. After pondering a bit, she closed her eyes shut and opened her mouth at me. Okay, Captain. But. Is that your special taste? It was a question more outrageous than I thought. That is of course due to me bringing the human woman alive inside the tent, but it's also because she, called as the most beautiful, was kicked aside, so it was no coincidence why she would come to such a conclusion I thought. But when I was in a period as a human, whenever the goblins saw human women, they would rush out at them as if they in heat. They too were probably had that kind of special taste. If you do think about it, I am included in that special taste. But I'm not stupid to admit such a thing. It's not that. Okay, I'll believe you. It hasn't been even that long, so I'm not sure what she meant when she said she'll believe me, but it's good enough. I started to stare at the plate that didn't look like one Meave brought. There were a few leaves decorated on it. The menu was as expected. An already dead goblin and a large fruit. It's not a fruit from here, but it's probably one that a different subordinate had found while hunting. There was no question that we had traded our humans for other stuff. Fruit weren't food that goblins preferred. To be honest, it was a bit too precious to trade those for them. Anyways, since I was famished, I started to eat the goblin's arm. I cut the large watermelon-looking fruit and threw it in front of her. She then lowered her head and ate it face down. It seems she hasn't eaten anything the entire day. Thank you. I shouldn't be one to thank. I began to watch the woman eating the fruit face down. Since both her hands were tied, she had no choice but to bend her back and eat crouched down. I thought of helping her with the food by bringing it to her mouth, but I saw a face full of frowning. In her eyes were full of malice. If she hadn't been captured, she probably would have survived. After a while, when the tent wasn't making any noise and a chewing sound could be heard from somewhere, Young-Hyun opened her mouth at me. Back. Are you going to kill me? It was a voice that sounded somewhat frightened, but clear. Hearing her voice, I had no choice but to carefully ponder. Opening the quest window, soon information entered my mind. Quest: go hunting. There are still many humans alive in the forest. Please continue to hunt these humans. 12:30. If it wasn't like killing this woman would complete the quest. Though I had completed a few experiments, it didn't hurt to check a few more. While I was busy contemplating what to do, an urgent voice could be heard. Please. Spare me. You are a human. We'll see. Cuke. Strictly arguing, only the inside was human. Externally, I was rather a heinous goblin. TCH. Answering in an uninterested manner caused her to start sweating anxiously. She's probably having a hard time understanding how she ended up in this kind of situation. Opening her eyes, she was transported to a strange place and was soon attacked by goblins, and barely escaping that also she thought, only to end up in the den of the goblins. Not only that, the fact the goblin that captured her may be human must be extremely confusing for her. I, too, didn't experience a comfortable tutorial. However, it wasn't as extreme as the woman in front of me. However, in her eyes were truly real malice. I know where the other humans are. In the end, she started to spew out information that she didn't necessarily have to say. It wasn't an unusual case. Rather, it was a very human choice. Anyone that would come across this kind of situation would likely do the same. The people that gathered from each city who were all perfect strangers. Not family, not friends. And it would be impossible to have camaraderie. The words that the woman spoke of materialized in my head. Please. Spare me. You are a human. A small wind could be heard leaking out of my lips. I was indeed a human, but humans are quite amusing. Cuke. Duke. After listening to Young-Hyun's side of her story, all the information matched with what I had currently. The place where she was summoned were exactly opposite of us. Different from us, the humans were supposed to survive from the battle against the goblins. Because of those narrow, close fights, the differing opinions that arose saying that they had to hide for 100 days safely compared to those that argued that completing the quests were a priority, separated the humans into two groups. Between the two choices, Young-Hyun selected the group that intended to survive, and in the end, met the other survivors in that cave. Apparently, the side that chose to survive had none that had completed a quest. Though I can't exactly remember the other group, but I did recall them completing the tutorial. But there was no one eye-catching among those guys. Since they had quite a lot of members, IPA.S.SED over this information to GOFF clan and to the other goblins. It was the precise reason as to why the goblins were screaming in the campgrounds in preparation of leaving. Of course I'm taking Young Hyun with me. I promised some of my subordinates other humans and entrusted Young Hyun to them that later. Definitely, I could once again feel that the goblins that came to my side enjoyed securing benefits. I will definitely repay this grace. Duke. No worries. Duke. Duke. As such, we brought our goblin village out with Young Hyun as our guide as we departed. Though I roughly remember where those guys were, I was simply playing with Young Hyun with entrusting this mission to her. I wanted to plant a sense of guilt, but I also was worried whether or not she would try to backstab us or not. I wasn't someone this thorough usually, but that last traumatic scene probably remained with me still from before. Young Hyun officially started guiding us from the cave where the battle occurred yesterday. Nevertheless, it was quite uncomfortable seeing the Blood Dagger clan flag tightly wrapped while pointing towards the direction. It's a trace. Duke advancing a bit further, we discovered a place where a few goblins had fought before, causing a few goblins to jump up in commotion. It's a trace. Captain Duke. Duke. Seeing it now, it seems as if it was a goblin from our side. Roughly nodding my head, we continued to head forward. Exploring the surroundings, it could be clearly made that there was a battle here. There were various traces of evidence lying around. In the case of corpses, I couldn't determine whether the goblin that had survived carried them, but on the wood and rocks on the ground were painted a red liquid. Soon, I was able to see equipment which blades had fallen off abandoned around. Slightly staring at Young Hyun, she precisely pointed towards a bushy place. They went over there. As for where after, I'm not sure. Good job. It seems that the two groups had parted here. After I roughly replied to Young Hyun, as if she had some hope, her face brightened a bit. The number of humans that moved wasn't small at all. I could see the traces lying around here and there. The broken branches, the crushed leaves. How strange. Even if it wasn't a professional archer, we should be sufficiently able to trail them. At this time, I ordered my goblins to attach leaves on their head and shoulders. Although it was quite embarrassing to be having this camouflage, if we were the ones to lead the village, then it was something that was necessary, I thought. Behind us, the Gorf clan as well as the other goblins followed our lead from afar. After a long time, I could tell that none of us were nervous. I think they're around here. Meave, how is it? I'm not too sure, Duke. Since it isn't such a mess. Wondering if she had learnt a way to read traces after evolving, I did slightly expect something, but it was still a bit awkward for her. In terms of a human, once you changed classes into an archer, you can start to read traces a bit. Since our senses were a bit more developed as monsters, I expected some sort of capabilities in comparison to humans, but that wasn't the case. What a shame. With a somewhat uncomfortable expression, I secretly looked over at Young Hyun. Come to think of it, I had forgotten that we had quite a wonderful bait. After requesting Gorf clan and the others to wait, I brought Young Hyun deep into the forest and had her stand there. In the eyes of humans, you could say she was quite a beauty. Though I didn't admit it, frankly my heart was throbbing as well. As a result, I placed the flag that Young Hyun had hanging on her back and stuck it into the ground. Why? Why are you doing this? As if realizing what I was planning, her face suddenly paled. Silencing her with my finger, I opened my mouth. Since you need to scream for help. Ah. But, who knows? We might lose and you could possibly escape. After momentarily being surprised, understanding my purpose, she compulsorily nodded her head. Then, soon after, she started to scream relentlessly. Save me. Save me, please. Kim Hang-yul was the survivors' camp's temporary leader. It has been 2 days since he arrived here. Though he prayed for it to be a dream and slept, when he woke up, he hoped for a warm room, but reality was quite cold. At first, right after he arrived, while sitting with his sword, those green monsters started to attack. Although they weren't strong or fast by any means, they held the same weapons as us. The humans had somehow fended off that first assault. On that night, the monsters attacked once more, but it proved to be their side's victory. Thanks to that, Kim Hang-yul completed his quest and changed classes into a warrior. After changing classes, he changed his sword and shield to something better, and became 1 level stronger. Despite not learning swordsmanship once, basic swordsmanship started to flood his consciousness. Before knowing it, he now understood how to block and attack. That wasn't the only thing he realized. You need to fight to survive. After gaining strength from evolving, that thought immediately crossed his mind. After completing that first quest, that second quest that immediately appeared. To kill 30 goblins would make him stronger once more, and make his survival rate higher. Kim Hang-yul, who had attained this particular strength, had the envy and jealousy of others, as some even marveled. Among that, the expression that was most noticeably was precisely, I can do it too, going from wanting to survive, more and more wanted to attain that particular strength. As such, at APA.S.SED, and it was early morning. They were currently discussing on which way they should head to. Save me. Save me, please. He could hear a voice from somewhere. It was clearly the voice of a young woman. Hang-yul. I heard it too. Shouldn't we leave and save her? Although he wasn't sure how a woman was stranded in the forest, but that sound wasn't being only heard by them. The monsters they had nearly exterminated could be there, or there could be the possibility that other monsters might rush over. Kim Hang-yul began to look around. Although a few had a look of dread, others had started to show greed. That was because of the possibility that they could hunt the monsters. That greed was also likewise with Kim Hang-yul. After surviving both battles, he believed that he could fully oppose against those small monsters, whether it was an ambush or a surprise attack, so his desire only grew. Lived to fight as much as there were those that had chosen this group. It was quite belligerent as well. In the end, Kim Hang-yul had no choice but to nod his head. Immediately prepare a rescue team and move. It was only a rescue team by word. Frankly, it was all those bloodshot people that were intent on raising their achievements. The fact that the girl was screaming means that there was still time to maneuver. Though the fact that enemies might not be there was high, but that scale wasn't that great. Kim Hang-yul soon gathered members that would partake in this rescue. Though the minority wanted to move now, they had to be cautious just in case. Although this world was a gamma-like system, it was never a game. As such, after gathering all the members that were able to fight, they began to move towards the voice. Hang-yul. I know. They made the choice of detouring around, because they were wary that monsters might appear in the trail. Though not noticeably strong, Kim Hang-yul was quite rational. As such, Kim Hang-yul's group covertly and swiftly began to move. We weren't the only ones that hunted. After moving for some time, the appearance of a woman slowly revealed. Her hair was messed up as she hung on a large flag with her clothes ripped. Her pale skin caused many to drool. While staring at the girl, a question continued to repeat. The situation is strange. S. Save me. PL. Please, sir. TCH. Although there are no monsters, we sure hit the lottery. The military group that claimed themselves to be protectors had harassed the women at camp a couple of times. Amongst them, the most wicked guy, Kwa Dukpal, was swallowing his saliva as he nodded his head towards the group. Kerr. It seems that drool is automatically flowing out. Stupid custards. Although it wasn't that Kim Hang-yul didn't bother girls as well, it's just that these guys were just too much to be able to think of this in this situation. In the end, Kim Hang-yul in this unnatural situation opened his mouth. We're retreating. Shouldn't we bring back that girl as well? Hair damn. I said we're retreating. If you don't withdraw, I'm returning back alone. Then go back alone. As for me, I'm going to take her back and have some fun. Don't bother asking to borrow her. As such, the group started to head towards the flagged place as Kim Hang-yul swallowed his dried spit looking on. Hey! We came to save you. Hey! The lady over there. Do you have something if we save you? We staked our lives trying to save you, that is. Shouldn't you have a simple present too? As expected, green monsters attacked from all directions. Compared to the previous fight, a large, tall goblin attacked followed by many others as the other guys collapsed without much of a fight. Whenever the large goblin swung his sword, the humans that had not finished their first quest were cut down as screams rang out. Ah! Kyarik! As if scared, the woman continued to scream as she saw the bloody field below, closing her eyes. Didn't you say you'd save me? You said you'd save me. Don't attack me. I'm on the same side. Same side. Although it was difficult to understand what was happening, Kim Hang-yul fled beforehand. Just by roughly inspecting, it was a battle without hope. The discrepancy in numbers was there, but the spirits of these monsters themselves were different. Damn. Things have gone wrong.